Hi everyone, Anthony Fantano here, internet's busiest music nerd, and it's time for a review devotion from Jessie Ware.
Oh, she's right there, and the wow.
Really?
She's over here.
Even on your wall, it's not funny. Jessie Ware is an up-and-coming pop singer from the UK. This is her debut full-length LP. My first exposure to her was singing on that Subtract album last year that I loved, that I thought was so great. She had a vocal appearance on just one single track. Then I started hearing singles and promotional tracks from this LP, kind of building up to the release of the album. I ran into 110%, which has this future garage style vocal sampling, this twittering busy rhythm, some smooth vocals and synthesizers. It has a really bouncy, rich bass line too. I didn't really feel like it was a gripping tune with how it was delivered. It was kind of quiet throughout, not really many climaxes. You know, I'm totally for the breaking, just the snapping of traditional song structures, or just adding on them and experimenting with them, but this to me just feels like no structure. But another single from this LP I love, Wildest Moments. The beat is so epic. The presentation of the song, period, is pretty grandiose. And I like the lyrics on the song too, about this couple putting all this effort into sort of making this relationship work, but these two people in the relationship have a full understanding of what the potential for this relationship could be. That is what keeps them going. The verse and the chorus have two very distinct feels to them. Really dynamic song. The chorus segues into a beautiful refrain. We can be the greatest, we can be the greatest. And I love how you get that dark choral effect when Jessie Ware sings, or we can be the worst of all. Just kind of adding that moody tone to that section of the lyrics, because while these people in this relationship keep going because they know that potential of how great this thing could be, they also know that it can be pretty terrible as well. Another track that was put out before this LP, Sweet Talk, is another great pop tune, but it has a bit of a vintage feel to it, kind of a retro futurist feel to it. Going back to the 80s with the drum beat and with the synthesizers and with the guitar leads that kind of interject between lyrics. I like the way the instrumentation changes on the second verse. Maybe the hook could be a little bit bigger. Maybe the vocals bite a bit from Little Dragon. But Sweet Talk and Wildest Moments are like everything I look for in a pop song. This album is titled Devotion, and if it is devoted to anything, it is the and smooth soul vibes of artists like Janet Jackson, Whitney Houston, Billy Ocean, Patrice Rushen. All those names rhymed. I think Jessie Ware definitely takes influence from those artists, but has a much kind of chiller vibe to her music. Even though I thought the singles to this LP were a little hit or miss, I was still pretty excited for this thing. Thought it would bring some big things. I would get a very classy kind of pop record. However, I feel like once I delved into this thing from beginning to end, all the small issues that I had on a couple of the singles just really got amplified. Throughout this thing, there are a lot of very underwhelming moments, lack of climaxes, and when Jessie Ware does manage to adventure a little bit, it can be a kind of bad experiment. Like the first track on here, the title track, it's just not a good opener. You've got these twinkling synthesizers, and Jessie is vocalizing with some kind of forgettable lyrics over this groove. It starts off okay, but there's not really any kind of change or significant progression. And the bass line on this thing is terrible. As far as I can tell, the track is in the key of D, and everything is pretty much in a major scale, except for the bass line, which is playing D and then kind of sliding down to a second note, which if it were going to be in the D major scale, it would be a diminished sixth, but nothing else in the instrumentation seems to be hinting toward playing or referencing that diminished sixth, so it's kind of dissonant for no real reason. There are more tracks on here that have grooves that are better than the opener, but they too also kind of lack anything interesting in terms of progression. And what hurts them even more is that the lyrics here and there can be pretty amateur or monotonous. I feel like you definitely could make the case that this is a sophisticated pop record. This pop record has a very expensive dress on, it sips wine delicately. It's not bubblegum by any means whatsoever. But despite the sophistication, I actually think most of this album is underdeveloped and pretty weakly improvised. Thankfully, toward the middle of the LP, another solid pop track with a structure comes out to play, Nightlight, though the hook is pretty big. I like the strings on the song too. Nice production. The lyrics can be so cheesy that it's a song I kind of hate to love. Though much of this album is very chill, very fragile and relaxed, the ending tracks seem to get even quieter, and sadly, to me, it only adds up to even more underwhelming moments. Overall, for me, Devotion is really spotty. It puts forth an image and an attitude that would make you think that the album is more progressive than it really is. I am totally down for embracing the past, but Jessie Ware doesn't really do anything new with it or adventurous with it. And I don't think she's put forth the effort to avoid the pitfalls that kind of come with this style of music too. The majority of these tracks are heavily pulling from the kinds of R&B records that right now are gathering dust in bins in thrift stores across America. I can see why this album would appeal to other people more than me, but I didn't like it. I mean, I'm pretty much sticking to the singles on this thing, and that's where my enjoyment of this album really kind of stops in a big way. I'm feeling a decent to strong 4 on this thing, but what did you guys think of it? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Why? And what should I review next? Remember, the good comment, the great rate, but only the strong. Subscribe. Jessie Ware, Devotion, forever.